How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun Ches, the 58 of Masechet Sanhedrin, friends. Yo, friends. What are we talking about today? I think it's like kind of Yevamasi. I think it's going to be Yevamasi. I think there's going to be some Yevamis over here. I think there's just going to be like a bunch of Yevamasi kind of stuff coming up the next few days. I can't even remember. It just feels like there's a lot of like Yevamasi kind of things happening. Have we had Yevamasi things so far? I can't remember what's what. I just have a feeling there's like a lot of like Yevamis kind of stuff. I think today's going to be kind of some of that. Alright, let's do it. So we're going to start on Daf Nun Zayin with Beis. 2 lines from the bottom. V'sover Reb Meir kol erva shebezdin sheisam emisin aleh benoach muzar aleh. We saw at the end of the daf yesterday that the opinion of Reb Meir is, as we just read, kol erva shebezdin sheisam emisin aleh, that any erva that bezdin that the yidden is a capital offense. So then a ben noach is not allowed to do those arayos. And we said that any erva that is not a capital offense, even if it's karis, but it's not misas bezdin, so then ben noach is not, there's no issue there for ben noach. So now, v'atanya, but is that really the case? But we learn in a brayse, so if you have a ger, a proselyte, now when this proselyte was conceived by his parents, when this proselyte was conceived, his mother was not yet a Jewish woman. However, by the time that he was Yotzu La'avir Ha'olam, by the time that this baby was born, his mother had already converted and was a part of the Am HaNivchar, and that she was a Jewish woman. So we consider it like he also converted. Right, when he was conceived to a non-Jewish mother, but was born to a Jewish mother. Okay, Seder. Now so this child is considered also to have like gone through a conversion because it. So now the thing with a proselyte is that, right, a gershon is gair kikotin shenoi ladomi. That a convert who converts, it's like they're born again, and their mother is no longer their mother. The mother when they were not a Jew, now that he converts, is technically not his mother. His brother is not his brother, sister is not his sister, his father is not his father, etc. Like he doesn't have any. Right, all the previous relations are detached. They're no longer his previous relations. Now the thing is. So now a nochri, okay, when he's not Jewish, he can't sleep with his sister, for example. That's arayos. You can't sleep with your sister. However, when he converts, all of a sudden she's not his sister anymore. So technically speaking, he can, it wouldn't be arayos if he sleeps with her. However, the Chachamim say that would also be, aside from the fact that it's weird because it's weird, it would also be weird from the perspective that, well, when he was not Jewish, this was a forbidden relationship. It would be weird that he becomes a Jew. He's now part of the Am HaNivchar. He's Kedusha. And now he could sleep with this woman who's like, he wasn't allowed to sleep with her. Also, now he's permitted to sleep with people that he was previously forbidden. Like, you would think fakert. You would think that all of a sudden he's holier. He's got more mitzvahs. Things that were permitted to him are now no longer permitted. Are now forbidden. He's on needs to, be on higher standards and more limitations. But no, they would be weird to say that, no, if you can't sleep with her, just convert to Judaism, then you can do whatever you want. That would be weird. So therefore the Chachamim say that, at least midei Rabbanon, anybody who he would have been forbidden to previously, before he was a Jew, he's still, midei Rabbanon, is not allowed to be with him. So now, so ger, shohaiso, when he was conceived, his mother was not Jewish, but by the time he was born, his mother was Jewish, and it's considered like he converted as well. Yeshlo she'er ha'em, so there is she'er ha'em, ve'en lo she'er ha'av, so there's family of his mother, but not family of his fathers. We're going to see that be'etzem, so for example, like your sister from your mother is forbidden to you, but your sister from your father, I guess, would not be considered arayis, it seems. So okay, it said how so? So noso achoso min ha'em. So if he married his sister from his mother, so kilu, even though he's considered to have converted, and technically it's not his mother and it's not his sister, but as we said, if it was asura to him beforehand, it's gonna be asura to him even after the conversion. So now, if he marries his sister from his mother, yotzi, they should not remain married. He has to let her go. Mina of yikayim. But if it's his sister from his father, then they can stay. Achis ha'ov min ha'em. His father's sister, that his father and his sister share a mother, yotzi, they cannot remain married. Min ha'ov yikayim. But if it's his father's sister, where his father and his aunt share a father, well then, yikayim, they can remain married. Achos ha'em min ha'em. His mother's sister, where his mother and his aunt share the same mother, yotzi, so they cannot remain married. Achos ha'em min ha'ov. But his mother's sister, where his mother and his aunt share the same father, Reb Meir Omer yotzi. Reb Meir says, nonetheless, yotzi, even though it is the mother's sister where they share a father rather than a mother, nonetheless, Reb Meir would say that they should not remain married. Whereas the Chacham say no, it's okay, because since they share the father, it's okay. Reb Meir Omer, but Reb Meir says that they should not remain married because he would say, Kol ervashi mishum she'er aim, that any arayis from the relation of the mother, yotzi, you cannot remain married. And therefore, even though, yes, technically it's your mother's sister, where your mother and this sister of hers share the same father, so it should technically be okay, but because it's via your mother, do not remain married. Mishum shera of yikayim. But if it's purely from the relation of the father, then you can stay married. Okay. Umuter be'eshes ochiv, and he's permitted to marry his brother's wife. This is very Yevamasi. Ve'eshes achi aviv, and your father's brother's wife. Ushe'ar kol arayus mutarus lo lasui eshes aviv. And all other arayus are permitted to include eshes aviv, your father's wife. So now that's already interesting, because your father's wife would be beskila, we said, and yet we're saying that it would be okay, presumably because of Ben Noach, right? It was permitted when he was a Ben Noach, his father's wife. So here already we're starting to see that here's an example of something that is usur, right? It would be a capital offense for a yid, and yet we're saying, right, kol arayus mutarus lo la'asuye eshes aviv, his father's wife is permitted. I'm going to drink some coffee. Nasa isha uvita, if when he was not a Jew, you have a convert who, when he was not a Jew, was married to a woman and her daughter, now when he becomes a Jew, so he can remain married to one of them, but not both. He has to release one of them. And all of these examples that we said, yikayim, so for example, your sister from your father, which we said is okay, but still, you still shouldn't marry her. Fine. Now, if he was married to a woman before he converted, then he converted and he remained married to the woman, then his wife dies. So he's permitted now to marry his wife's mother, his mother-in-law. Now, again, that's an example of something that, generally your mother-in-law would be, did we say, I think we said beskila, right? I think we said it was skila. But your mother is asura. And yet, we are saying that by Ben Noach it seems permitted, which is why we're saying that if his wife dies, he can marry his mother-in-law, since mother-in-law to Ben Noach is permitted. So that's another question. It's another example where you have capital punishment, and yet Ben Noach seems to be allowed. Those who say, Osu b'chamoso. Some takas say that it's Osu b'chamoso. Okay. Okay. So we have a few sort of discrepancy, right? One is that we're talking about your also ba'achoso, ba'achos aviv, etc., right? Your sister from your mother, which would be kares, rather than capital punishment, and yet we're saying that that is osir, even though it's not actually capital punishment. Then we had examples of capital punishment. For example, your father's wife, or according to the opinion, right, your mother-in-law. According to the first opinion, would be permitted, and yet both your father's wife and mother-in-law would be examples of capital offenses for Yidden, and yet we're saying it's permitted for a Ben Noach. So what's the deal with the discrepancy? Rav Yehuda, loy kash. This is Rav Yehuda, it's no problem. Rav Meir, aliba de Reb Eliezer, Rav Meir, aliba de Reb Akiva. Oh, these are two different opinions of Reb Meir. When Reb Meir says that any what was it? 1 second. Where am I? Okay. That Reb Meir, when he says that, all the arayos that are capital offenses for Yidden, so then are also for Bnei Noach. So that is according to Rab Akiva, as we're going to see. And when he says in this brisa that for example, your mother-in-law or your father's wife are permitted, so that is going to be like Rabbi Eliezer. And Rashi points out that Talmud Shel Shneim Hoyu, that Reb Meir was a student of not just Rabbi Akiva. Of course, we know that he was a student of Rabbi Akiva. He was one of the 5 students or 6 students, main ones of Reb Meir. But he was even interestingly a student of Rabbi Eliezer, which is very interesting. That wasn't at the top of my mind. Sorry, I was just drinking a little bit more coffee. So where am I? Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda leikashis, no problem. Rav Meir liba de Reb Eliezer, Rav Meir liba de Reb Akiva. The Tanya that we learned in Brisa, Al Kain, right? The pasuk says in Parashas Bereishis, Al Kain Yazov Ishus Aviv Imoy, that a person, a man, a fellow, will leave his father and his mother, v'davak b'ishtoi, and he will marry his wife. He will cling to his wife. V'hoylu v'asar echad. There will be one flesh. So Al Kain Yazov Ish Esav Vesimo, that a person will leave, i.e. stay away from, because it's arayos, his father and his mother. The shaila is, what is reference to his father and his mother? Rabbi Eliezer Omer says, Rabbi Eliezer Oviv, Achois Oviv Imoy, Achois Imoy. That when it says father, it means your father's sister. When it says mother, it means your mother's sister. We're saying that it's also like the Brisa, where it says your father's sister and your mother's sister is Aser. So when we say Reb Meir would say Aser, it's like Reb Eliezer. Rabbi Akiva Omer says, Rabbi Akiva, Oviv Eishes Oviv, or Rabbi Akiva says father means the wife of your father. Imo Eishes, Imo Mamish. When it says mother, it means Mamish, your mother. So those are capital offenses. So we see that Rabbi Akiva is the one who's saying that the capital offenses are also to Bnei Noach, as we see from the pasuk from Bereishis. So when Rav Meir says that capital punishments are also for Bnei Noach, mid-kilu capital cases for Yidden are also for Bnei Noach, that would be that's Rav Meir like Rabbi Akiva. V'davak, and he will cling v'loi bezocher, not to a man will not cling with another man, because v'zavach, I believe the point is it implies a certain amount of pleasure, whereas I guess it would be less pleasurable with 2 men. Be'ishtoi, his wife, v'lo be'eshes chaveri, so his wife and not his friend's wife. V'aylu basar echod, there'll be one flesh. Mishanaisim basar echod, they have to be able to make a baby. Yatsu behema v'chaya shenaisim basar echod. So you can't be with an animal or a beast because you can't have a baby with them. Okay. Omer Mai, we said earlier, Rabbi Eliezer, Omer says Rabbi Eliezer, Aviv achos Aviv ima. I'm sorry, Aviv achos Aviv. So we had said that according to Rabbi Eliezer, when it says, right, Al Kin Yazov Isha, so Aviv Vesimo, so what's Aviv? His father's sister. So, the Ema, Aviv Mamish, maybe that means Mamish your father, right? You can't sleep with your father. But Hainu V'davak V'lei B'zocher. But yeah, we already know that V'davak and not with a Zocher. So your father's a Zocher, obviously you can't sleep with your father. So it's not talking about your father. So Ema, Eishes Aviv, okay, maybe I'll say though instead of your father's sister, maybe it's talking about your father's wife. Hainu B'ishto V'lo Be'eshes Chaveru. Yeah, but we said V'davak B'ishto, we said Ishto V'lo Eishes Chaveru. and your father's wife is somebody else's wife, is an Eishes Ish. So he said, yeah, but maybe what it's saying is that you can't be with your father's wife even after he dies. No, but dumya de imo, because we're saying, right, it says al ken yazov ishus aviv ves imo. We're like comparing father and mother. So ma imo, just like when it comes to your mother, delav ishus, that we're not talking about your mother through we're not talking about a marriage relationship. So af aviv delav ishus. So also with your father, we're not talking about a marriage. We're not talking about being usher to your father's wife even after death. No, so we're not talking about marriage over here. We're talking about your father's sister. Imoi, when it comes to your mother, achos imo, we said it means your mother's sister. Imo mamish. Wait, maybe it means literally his mother. Don't sleep with your mother. Hanu beishtav lebeishis chaveru. Yeah, but that's with your, we said, right, your wife, not somebody else's wife, and your mother is somebody else's wife. Ve'imo la'acher miso. But maybe it means don't sleep with your mother even after her husband dies. Tumyu de oviv. Well, it's similar to a father. Ma oviv de lav mamish. Well, just like your father, we said isn't mamish talking about your father, it's talking about your father's sister. Saf imo de lav mamish. It's not talking about your literally your mother. It's talking about your mother's sister. Bikiva, my sister Bikiva. Oviv, Eishes oviv. Then when we say father, it means your father's wife. Ve'ema oviv mamish, but maybe it means literally your father. Yeah, but it says don't sleep with men, and your father's a man. Yochi Eishes oviv nami. If that is the case that we're saying v'davak v'lo b'zachor, so when we say, so we're saying oviv means your father's wife, but hainu be'ishtov v'lo be'eshes chaver. But isn't that be'ishtov v'lo be'eshes chaver? So the Achar Misa, it's teaching that even after death. So Kilu, it's saying don't sleep with your father's wife even after your father dies. Imo mamish. When it says don't sleep with your mother, it means literally your mother. But isn't that what is meant from your mother and not somebody else's wife? And your mother is married to somebody else. Imo me'anusaso. Yeah, you could be talking about though your mother, who you were conceived when your father had, I guess, non-consensual relations with your mother, and that's how you were born, but they aren't actually married, and we're saying that you can't be with her, with your mother. What's the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva? How come Rabbi Eliezer is saying that imo means Eishes imo and Oviv means Eish? I'm sorry. Why does Rabbi Eliezer say that Oviv means Achos Oviv and Imo means Achos Imo? And why does Rabbi Akiva say that Oviv means Eishes Oviv and Imo means Imo Mamish? What's the difference between, what's the pshat and the machlokes? So my comment, forget what's the machlokes. Rabbi Eliezer, so Rabbi Eliezer holds Oviv Dumyo de Imo V'Imyo Dumyo de Oviv, that in order to have your father be comparable to your mother and your mother be comparable to your father, lo mishkachas, that we only find it ela ba'achva, only with the brothers / sisters, right? Keilu, if we say Aviv and Imo are similar, so if you say Aviv means your father's sister, Imo means your mother's sister, so Keilu, it's the same idea. They're sister, right? It's like, so they're both similar. Your father and your mother are similar. Your father's talking about your father's sister, your mother's talking about your mother's sister. Whereas Rabbi Akiva says, Mutav lo ukmei be'eshes Aviv de'ikre ervas Aviv. Rabbi Akiva says, yeah, but you know what? I prefer to say that it's talking about your father's wife, because that would be considered ervas Aviv, la'afuke achos Aviv, to the exclusion of your father's sister, that isn't actually erva de she'er Aviv ikre ervas Aviv l'ikre. It's called your father's family, but it's not called an erva of your father. And Rabbi Akiva says that I'd prefer to say that this is talking about an actual erva, actual arayis, which would be your father's wife, rather than your father's sister. That would technically be categorized as she'er versus erva. I'm going to drink a little bit more coffee. Says the Gemara Toshma, come here. Vayikach Amram es Yocheved deidase. Or it says that Moshe Rabbeinu's father Amram married his aunt, his father's sister. Right? Vayikach Amram es Yocheved deidase. Yocheved his aunt. My love, deidase min ha'em. So let's say that Yocheved was his father's sister, and his father and his aunt shared the same mother, and yet we're saying that they were allowed to get married. But we had said that your father's sister who shares a mother is also lo dedasim of. No, they shared the same father, but not the same mother. Toshma, coming here, that Avram Avinu says to, who does he say? I think to Avimelech, V'gam omna achesi bas ovihi, right? Because he said, Avimelech says, hey, what's the deal? Why you said that you're, right, Avram, you said Sarah was your sister, not your wife. So he says, well, Avram says, well, technically, V'gam omna achesi bas ovihi, look, she is my sister, just we share the same father, achlo bas imi, we don't share the same mother. My sister from my father, but not from my mother. Michlad de baso aim asura, implying that that if there would be sisters who share the same mother, it would be asur. Now that's a kashan of Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva Davka was assuming that his opinion is Davka, if it's a capital case for Yidden, then it's asur to b'nei noyach. But your mother, your sister from your mother is kares. It's not capital pun. It's not misas bezdin. So we say v'tizba. 1 second. Achoso havoy. But we say, well, hold your horses. Sarah was not actually Avram's sister. Bas ochiv havoy. It was his niece. And since Sarah was his niece, loishna mina av v'loishna mina aim sharia. I mean, your niece is permitted regardless of if your brothers, if it's the daughter of your brother and you and your brother share the same mother or father, your niece is permitted. So Ella, rather don't draw conclusions like that. Hasamachi kamarle kurvadachos isli baida me abba velo me ima. No, what he's saying is, what Avram was simply saying is that Avimelech, you're asking me why I said that, right? That she's my sister. What I was saying is that this, because we say bnei bonim arein kibonim, so therefore they both shared the same grandfather, and it was keilu, like they are in a sense, brother and sisters, but that relation is through Avram's brother Haran, and that he and Haran shared a father but not a mother. Avram Avinu was just kind of technically, Sarah was his niece, and therefore either way it's permitted. What Avram Avinu was doing was he was trying to explain the rationale to Avimelech why he said that she was his sister, because technically, there is a relation there, and that would be through their father, through his father Terach, but not through a shared mother. Toshma, right, because him and Haran, her father, had different mothers apparently. Toshma, come there. How come Adam Arishan, Adam, did not marry his daughter? So that Cain would be able to marry his sister, right? If there was nobody else in the world at the time, it was literally just Adam and Eve. He had a son Cain, and apparently, if there's any women in the world, it was either Eve or if they had a daughter. So Be'etzem, who was Cain going to marry? There weren't kind of slim pickings, literally. It was literally just, there was one person he could have married, and that was his sister. So I guess that's how it goes at the beginning. So how come Adam didn't marry his daughter? Well, so that she would be able to marry Cain. And Cain married his sister. Shneimar, the Apostle says, and it said that the world will be built on chesed. And therefore, Adam did kindness, he did chesed by not marrying his daughter, so that Cain would be able to marry her. But if not for the fact of olam chesed yibone, that Adam was doing kindness, asira, then you would not be allowed to marry your sister. So came into Ishtri. So would you say, no, you can argue that Enochinami was olam chesed yibone, but because of olam chesed yibone, that makes it mutter. Okay. Amar Avuna says, Avuna Kusi, which is Betzim Nochri, Mutter Bebito is allowed to marry his daughter. You say, what do you mean? But if a Kusi can marry his daughter, then how come Adam didn't marry his daughter? The answer is, well, that was just so that Cain would have somebody to marry because of Adam Chesed Yiboneh. The others would say, Amar Avuna Kusi Osir Bebito. That a Kusi is forbidden to marry his daughter Teda, and you should know Shalo Noso Adam as Bito, and you should know that Adam, after all, did not marry his daughter. But that's not actually a good proof, because Hosam Hainu time, but the reason why Adam did not marry his daughter is Kadesh Yisa Kain Esachosos, that is, Cain could marry his sister Mishum the Olam Chesed Yiboneh because of Olam Chesed Yiboneh. Azoy. More coffee. Okay. Amr of Chizde says of Chizde, Eved mutter b'imo, mutter b'bito. Interesting. In Eved Knaini, it's kind of in this middle ground, because on the one hand he's chayiv in mitzvahs ki'isha, so he's no longer a nachri, but at the same time he's not, right? If he's freed, he becomes a full-fledged yid, but right now he's kind of in between. So, right, so in this case, mutter b'imo, umutter b'bito. In Eved, is allowed to marry his mother, is allowed to marry his daughter, because since he's like no longer a Nachri, he's like a halfway a Jew, so they're no longer his relations. At the same time, the whole point of saying why he would not be allowed to marry them is because, well, it's weird that it's weird to say that when he was a Nachri, he was forbidden to them, and now as a Jew, he's permitted, but he's not actually a Jew yet. So therefore that Gezerah doesn't apply yet, since he's not actually a Yid, so he's allowed to marry his mother, he's allowed to marry his daughter. So Yotz Michlal Kusi is no longer a Kusi, but at the same time, V'lechlal Yisrael Leba, he's not a Jew yet. Ki also Rav Dimi, Amr Rav Elazar, Amr B'chanin, Ben Noyach Sheyichet Shivcha Le'avdo. Ben Noyach, now I translated this wrong, I believe, the other day. I was doing Chazara in the airport in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I think I overlooked something. Ben Noyach Sheyichet Shivcha Le'avdo, that if he designated a Shivcha for his Eved. So now his Eved is technically married, Uva Aleh, but then the Ben Noyach sleeps with her, but she's married to the Eved. Nerag Aleh, he will be, so the Adon will be killed for that. Me'emas, at what point is she considered married to the Eved? Rav Nachman midikaru la revisa de planya, once they say, oh, that is so-and-so's wife. Okay? Once it's public knowledge that she's the wife of the Eved, so then the Adon can no longer be with her. Meimas hatarasa, but if the marriage breaks off, then at what point is she permitted once again? Amar Rafuna, mishapari rosha bashuk, once she walks around in the market without a head covering. Okay. Amar Balazar, Amar B'chanina, Ben Noyach sheba al ishto shaloi kedarko. Oh, a Ben Noyach who has beer with his wife, not in the regular manner. Shaloi kedarko. Chayav, staka chayav misa shnemer v'dovak v'lo shalo kedarko. It says v'dovak, that you will cling with your wife in the what's considered to be the more pleasurable way, not shalo kedarko, which would be considered less pleasurable. Amar Rave mi'ika mididi Yisrael loy mechayev v'kusi mechayev. To which we say, Rava asks, but how could that be? How could it be that there's something that's mutter for a Yid, and yet it's forbidden for Bnei Noach? I would think normally fakert, that you have things that are permitted for Bnei Noach, but for the Yidden, we refrain from doing them. But here we have something that's permitted for a Yid, but also for Ben Noach. Elam Maravo, rather says Rava Ben Noach Shabal Eishes Chaver Shaloi Kedarko Potter, that a Ben Noach who has bia with his friend's wife, but it's shalo kedarka, potter. My time beishto v'lo beishes chaver v'dovak v'lo shalo kedarka. Right, that marry you be with your wife, not with your friend's wife. And this v'dovak, it has to be kind of in the normal way, but not shalo kedarka. It would be potter for that. Omer B'chanino says B'chanino ovikochovim shehikas Yisrael, and ovikochovim who smites a yid. Chayiv misa shenemar vayifen koi vachoy vayaki einish vayaches hamitzri v'gomer. That Moshe Rabbeinu saw that there was an Egyptian who smote a yid, so Moshe Rabbeinu killed him. From Chanina asota lo shel Yisrael, somebody who strikes a yid in the jaw, ki asota lo shel Shechina, it's like you strike the Rebbeinu Shalom in the jaw. Shenemar, as opposed to says mokesh adam yola kodesh, that a person who hits somebody, so then it's like he's hitting the Rebbeinu Shalom. Magbia Avdai Shabbos Simin Omer Rishlakish says Rishlakish Magbia Yodai Al Chaveru, somebody who raises his hand against his fellow. Even though he doesn't actually hit his fellow, he just raised his hand. Nikra Roshe is called the Shmendrik. Shneimar, as the Apostle says, Vayom La Roshe Loma Sakerecha. Right, that Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Shmendrik, why will you hit your brother? Loma Yikisa Lo Nemar. It doesn't say, why did you hit your brother? No. Why will you hit your brother? Nikra Rosha. Even though he didn't actually hit him, right? Why have you raised your hand to hit your brother? Nonetheless, it's called Vayomer La Rosha. He said to the Shmendrik. He's a Shmendrik. Zeiri Amar Reb Chanina Nikachote. Reb Chanina says he's considered a sinner. She's called a sinner. Shneimar v'imlo lokachta b'chozka v'chozka. It says by the children of Eli who were being inappropriate in the temple and the Mishkan with the people who came to bring offerings, and he said that if you're not going to do it, he threatened them. It says, I'm going to take it by force. It says that their sin was really big, so we see that they're called a sinner. Rav Huna Amar says, yodo, their hand shall be chopped off. Shenemar, as opposed to says, Zra Rama Tishover, a lifted arm shall be broken off. Rav Huna Kotz Yodo. Rav Huna Taka did this once. There was somebody who couldn't keep his hands to himself, so literally Rav Huna removed his hand from himself. And then he mamash couldn't keep his hands to himself. He didn't have them. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer Omer says, Rabbi Elazar Omer, Ein lo takona ela kvura, that a person who hits, the only solution is to bury him in the ground. Shenemar ve'ish zroa lo haaretz, that a person who uses his hands to hit, so then lo haaretz, for him is the ground. We bury him in the ground. That property, that land is given to strong people. The strong-armed person gets land. I guess it's right. They say real estate is like a cutthroat business. Stark. Rish Lakish says, what does it mean? What's that sound? I don't know, I think maybe it's a laundry or something. That somebody who works his land, he will eat bread. Person who enslaves himself to his land, to work hard, to plant, to seed, to this, to that, he will ultimately be satisfied with bread. But if he's not going to work hard, then he's not going to have bread. Rish Lakish says, Rish Lakish, Ovid Kechavim Shavas, in Ovid Kechavim, who what's the word? Takes too much leisure time. He doesn't work. Chayev Misa, he's Chayev Misa. Shenema v'yom v'layla lo yishbosu. That says to Bnei Noach that day and night they cannot rest. They must always be on. They must always be working. They can't take a day off. And we said that the warning is their death, the Chayev Misa for that. Even if it's just a regular Monday, on the one hand, we're saying, okay, the Yidden, they rest on Shabbos. It's dafka for the Yidden. Right? So we're saying, hey, don't rest on Shabbos, you got to work then. But even on a regular weekday, they have to always be working. Well, if that's the case, that if they take a day off to Chayev Misa, then that sounds like a Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach kind of thing. Say that there are 8 mitzvahs B'nei Noach. The thing is that the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach are like lo tases. Don't steal. Don't eat Eiver Menachai. Don't worship Getchkes. Don't have inappropriate relationships, etc. But here this is go to work. It's an essay. It's saying go to work. So that was not included. That's excluded. But aren't courts? We're saying set up courts. That's one of the Shev Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. No. Well, yes, we're saying go set up courts, but it's also saying also don't be inappropriate, right? Set up courts and don't be ovel, iniquitous or something. So that's why. So there's that sort of an aspect of a lo saseh there by the courts. Azoy, that was daf nun ches of Masechta Sanhedrin. We learned kind of like arayos kind of things. Which arayos are allowed, which arayos are like not allowed and stuff. And there was some interesting stuff on this daf. Peace out.